Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in once again to another episode of Ralston Speaks. Happy New Year to all my brothers and sisters out there. We passed an anniversary, a very sad anniversary on the 3rd, the anniversary of a 21-year-old Mr. Young Jr., who in 1966, January 3rd, 1966, was killed while attempting to use a whites-only bathroom. 1966. And we still have this violent racism and segregation today. Now, we all know the fiasco that happened at the Capitol building. Well, do we all need any more evidence of white privilege than that? Had those been African American or Hispanic or gay or Muslim protesters that actually broke windows, got into the building and sat on the main seat, had those been, like I said, African American, gay, lesbian, Muslim, the restraint that the police officers showed in this occasion never would have happened in the other one. We, African American men, women, gay, lesbians, Latinos, Muslims would have been mowed down and slaughtered to the man or woman. And if you think that's not true, then you are an ostrich burying your head in the sand, or you're living under a rock in a fantasy land of your own design. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the minimal casualty count is evidence of white privilege. When the protesters marched on Washington for the George Floyd murder, they called out the riot police in force. They did not let them get anywhere near the building. They were armed to the teeth, ready to the man, and had anyone approached within 50 feet of that building, there would have been dire consequences. Yet, as we see on the videos, these protesters were handled with kid gloves and actually allowed through the barricade into the building. Now, my question to you, ladies and gentlemen, is how is it that the main emblem, aside from the Trump flags and banners that these people displayed and flew, how is it that the main emblem was the American flag? How is it that these people are called heroes by their MAGA and racist associates? How is it that these people are called heroes when they are actually opposing, in a violent manner, fair and equal, impartial elections? You know, they call themselves more American than I. Is it American now to not accept no for an answer like a rapist? Is it more American to accept yes only when it applies to you? And if it's yes when it applies to someone you don't approve of, that's cause for you to become a domestic terrorist? This country has so much to be accountable for. We are going to make these videos much shorter and much more informative in the future, ladies and gentlemen. So before I close on this one, if you had any doubt that we are living in a racist society, then I did some research, and let me share with you, ladies and gentlemen, the product of my research: board games, products sold in convenience stores and department stores that displayed blatant racism. And not only was there no protest, but it was the norm that someone could walk up to the store and see a puzzle labeled "chopped up niggers," where 500 piece, 100 piece, 300 piece, 1,000 piece puzzle, once put together, depicted a black man or a woman in violent position, whether he being whipped, chained, running from the dogs, or picking cotton. These puzzles were called chopped up niggers. And once put together, like I said, the picture would display a African American man or woman in a position that compromised basically his dignity. Another product, and these were true products, ladies and gentlemen, you can look them up for yourselves. Another product was Nigger Head Tar Soap. It was a strong black soap designed to cure niggerhead, which is something that my race never had to deal with. Dandruff, psoriasis of the scalp, and the picture on the cardboard box depicted a African American man with bug-eyed and humongous red lips. Speaking of humongous red lips, the last product that I would like to share with you is Nigger Boy greeting cards. Ladies and gentlemen, these are real products. Nigger Boy greeting cards, where a young boy, the same African American boy, would in pidgin English, broken English, would display greetings from the season that the card portrayed to. The one that I looked up portrayed Valentine's Day. The front of the card, and he's sitting on a branch of a tree with a straw in his mouth, wearing cut off, dirty pants with jagged cuts around the knees, barefoot, and no shoes on, and the greeting card would said, "Be ma M-A-H Valentine. I'll be hanged if you say no." Ladies and gentlemen, in this day and age, if someone had, if there was a product of that nature, of that magnitude on any shelves in the United States, now it's different between people opposing it and disagreeing with it. You can oppose it to be politically correct. Oh, you can't do that. That's racist. But do you actually disagree? Well, thanks to Donald Trump, we found that more people agree with racism and the poor treatment of minorities and illegal aliens and minorities. Let's just say minorities. Than we of the UNIFIC Brotherhood are comfortable with knowing. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a race of equality. Now, we are hoping for some healing with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, but we are not fooled. We're not going to put on our rose-colored glasses, because we've all heard some of Joe Biden's previous speeches that he spoke in his younger years. We're going to have to hold him accountable for his beliefs back then, now. And one thing that we have to hold, speaking of accountability, before we close, is that we call on the justice system to hold Donald J. Trump accountable for inciting a riot. We all know that Donald Trump is behind the majority of the bad things and the protests and the violence that has been taking place in the United States in the past 4 years. We know this. These racists were always there, but he gave them a voice. When is Donald Trump going to be held accountable? We need to hold our politicians accountable, because for one thing that the United States, the people in the United States and the politicians have forgotten is that the politicians work for us. We hired them. They are our voice. If someone has a good idea, they tell their idea, and the opposing party shuts it down, not because it's a bad idea, because it's an opposing party that comes up with the idea. They don't want to either give that party credit, or they don't want to make it easy for that party to exercise their jobs, then that is something that we need to hold them accountable for, because they work for us. Whether it be Republican or Democrat, they work for the people. That is something that these politicians have forgotten, and we need to hold them accountable. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ralston. Thank you once again for tuning into another episode of Ralston Speaks, brought to you by the UNIFIC Brotherhood.